Prepare to experience the strongest radio allowable by law. Secrets will be revealed. Myths dispelled. From the studio gym where excuses never apply, it's Superhuman Radio with your host, Carl Lenore.
Hey, welcome back to another episode of Superhuman Radio. I got to tell you, today's interview is important, and I'll tell you why. Many of us in this community started using nootropics back in 1995-ish. You know, phenylpiracetam, alpha-GPC. We were doing things in hopes of actually feeling our brains responding to these products. But if you're like me, we're not using phenylpiracetam anymore because most of us didn't really notice anything from it. And the truth of the matter is, if you think about all the nootropics you've used in the years that you have been trying to increase your brain power without being hyper energized from caffeine and other stimulants that really just make you crash and feel like crap later on. You know that you're none of those things, you're not taking any of those things anymore. And even some of the new stuff that we've promoted on this show that some of you probably realized I didn't get behind wholeheartedly, because in the end, when I took the 8 capsules of this, I didn't feel anything. Now, okay, I'm a seasoned drug user. We know that. 16 years, I've shared everything with my audience. I don't hide anything. And, you know, I did a lot of drugs in the 70s and 80s and 90s. I tripped a lot. And so it takes a little bit more to move my needle, to say the least, right? A microdose of shrooms for me is 600, 700 milligrams. You know, I mean, I'm pretty close to a gram to feel it. And obviously a full-on trip takes me about 4 grams of shrooms. So I'm a seasoned drug user. And some of us in this audience know what I'm talking about. A lot of stuff that we just don't feel. This is a game changer. What Bioptimizers has done with their new product, Nootopia, has not only raised the bar, but it will forever change the landscape, because these companies that use these kitchen sink blends and put them in a bunch of caps, and you take them and you don't notice anything, and that's why you don't order it a second time or a third time, they're going to be ghosts pretty soon, because Nootopia is going to deliver on the nootropic experience, what we have all wanted and the category desperately needed. So we're going to talk about that today. Before we get started, we have to thank our title sponsor, and that's Legendary Foods, makers of the tasty pastry. People are now talking about how their kids love tasty pastries. I'd like to think that this show is the reason that that's happening, because I've said the tasty pastry started out to be a solution to the Pop-Tart, and it's so much more. And you won't eat it because it's 4 to 5 net carbs or 20 grams of high quality protein or less than 1 gram of sugar. You'll eat it because they're so effing delicious. And the acid test to that is give one to your kids. Your kids will never choke down a healthy snack, a healthy protein bar. They'll take one bite of it, they'll spit it out, they'll hand it to you, and that'll be the end of it. This is a game changer. Your kids will love these, and that's proof that they're delicious. Because if a kid will eat it and it's still good for them, now you know. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary. Use the code SHR10 to save 10% off. You'll love them. I love them. I can't stop eating them. And that's it. So now let me get my guest on, because I'm really excited about this. I have a strange feeling I haven't had a chance to really talk to him a lot, but I got a feeling he and I have a similar journey in life. Mr. Noots, as he goes. Now your name really isn't Mr. Noots, right? Your parents didn't say, let's call him Mr. Noots, right?
No. It's actually Mark Effinger. And those in the venture capital, angel capital, and startup communities know me as Mark Effinger. So
okay.
But Matt, the journey to discovery for Matt Gallant, the CEO, and Wade Lightheart, the president of Bioptimizers, and my former company, was an interesting journey. And so it was actually set up, if I can share, Carl.
Please.
It was actually a protective measure. So we had this existing company had been doing for 14 years in total R&D, and then 4 of those were R&D specifically, and then 10 years of actually growing the company. And we'd gone through a lot of growth spikes. And then Matt and I met because a good friend of ours who's the first guy to ever do a podcast with me back in 2012 or 2013. He's an executive coach, very well-known guy. Brad Costanzo is his name. Big shout out to Brad.
Mm-hmm.
And he did an open box on Facebook where he basically just opened up a priority mail box, poured out a bunch of test tubes, and said, "This is the shit." and then somebody alerted me to it, and I read the thread, and everybody's going, "Well, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this?" He goes, "Yeah, man, you know me. I try them all. I do them all." He goes, "But this is the stuff that's custom blended just for me. This is the stuff that works. These are the guys that really love and are passionate about what they do. They're not doing it for the buck. They're doing it because they want to change the world. So that's what I use." And Matt Gallant saw that, said, "I just spent $150K myself trying to get to this place. Mm-hmm. And I have a feeling, I have an intuitive feeling that this might be the thing." So he sent Wade down from Seattle after doing 40 years of Zen. Wade came down and said, "I got to meet these guys and see if they're real." And he came by my office, which was on Main Street in Pacific Northwest in Vancouver, Washington. We jived for about 4 hours. We just rifled, like it was a Gatling gun of fun of how do you do this? And what about this? And what about this? And we'd had a bunch of offers on our company over the last 4 years. And we had either turned them down or found out that the companies behind them had no interest in preserving the integrity of what we were doing, or nor growing it. They had other ideas. So anyhow, so Matt went and bought tens of thousands of our product, and gave them to, and Matt and Wade and the whole management team were taking our product in excess, putting together a spreadsheet, analyzing it, trying the different, they'd say, "Okay, what about this? Can you do a variation like this? What about this? What about this?" And Matt's brilliant at that. Wade is incredibly intuitive at that. And after about 6 months, Matt said, "Let's do this. Let's see if we can play nice together. We're gonna couch you behind an image of Mr. Noots, so it's static image, and we're gonna put a vocoder on your voice, and let's go roll you out like you're an FBI informant."
That's funny.
It was, here's the funny part, Carl. So we did it, right? We did a November 2020 podcast, and immediately following, it was like 3 hours or 3.5 hours. Immediately after, Matt calls me and says, "Dude, we got I think it was like 81%. So basically you lost 19%, right? So it was negative revenue." And I'm going, "Oh crap, that must mean it's over. That must mean it's a done deal and we're out." He goes, No, man. He goes, "If we get 20%, right? If we only make 20%, we don't make 80%, right? I can fix that. I know how to fix that. Right. We got great customers. We're good at communication. We're good at marketing. We can do that." He goes, "I'm elated." And then of course we fixed it immediately, the next one. And so anyhow, it was and we did that for the first year, because if I had to exit, if for any reason either party said, we don't enjoy playing together, or we don't agree on the same ethics or principles or model, then we can get out and I can go continue doing what I was doing. He can do what he's doing with some more information. We'll have built a bigger business. It would have been a win-win.
Right.
But I got to tell you, brother, this is my 19th startup that I've done. I've personally been on the signing of the CEO, founder, president role of 19 startups. And I've worked with a bunch of companies in between there as well, like the companies that acquire my startups afterward, the companies that ask me to consult to them or be on their board. And this is the best company culture of any company I've ever had a chance to play with.
I know.
You know?
And you know why? Because each of them is solid human beings to begin with. You can't fake that. You know what I mean? You can't just go, okay, we're going to create a corporate culture that has nothing to do with our internal compass. Doesn't work. You can't do it.
Right.
So,
No. And they're that some. So hey, I got to tell you, man, you and I was born in 1961.
58. So I'm 58, just a tiny bit older than you. Okay.
Awesome. So we have this similar background of growing up, with the Beatles and with Zeppelin and with Pink Floyd and with Aerosmith and Yes and Rush and right and and with Cream and with
Now you're talking. Ginger Baker on the double bass. He was the first drummer to ever play a double bass. Is amazing.
Yeah. And then you got Bruford on, and King Crimson and Yes and right and in Asia and oh God, I remember. I mean, those concerts. What life changers those concerts were. I saved my fucking life.
Yes, I agree, and it punctuates. Every time I hear a song, I have a memory that I'll say to Elisa. Oh, I remember when I would first move to Las Vegas. She jokes with me. She says, "Oh, every song brings back a memory." I says, "Yeah, it punctuated my life." It's funny. I've talked about on this show in the past about going to see Kiss at Madison Square Garden on New Year's Eve night. It was probably around 1978. Don't hold me to that. 78, 79. Two tabs of window pane and a bag of angel dust. I drove the car to Madison Square Garden. So here's the beauty of it. I remember driving to Madison Square Garden. I don't remember going in. I don't remember anything about the concert except the last song was Firehouse, and the pyrotechnics blew up on the stage. And I came out of my trip for a moment, and I was like, "Oh man, there's fire everywhere!" And then I just went back into it. I don't remember driving home that night or anything. So yeah, I was none of the girls in high school were interested in me because he's a druggie. They say he's a druggie.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. I was experimental. That's all. Well, let's talk about this stuff here because this is really amazing. And there's so much technology involved in this product. Like the capsules in a capsule. I've bitten a couple of them just to see what happens if I go around the delivery system. You know what I mean? And that stuff, Zamner spray. It's like everybody should have. Yeah. There's so many different products with the capsule and a capsule with some oil on one side, and so. How long did it take you to catalog all of the different effects of some of these compounds? And then how did you decide what to blend with what?
So it started, if you'd like to go back in time with me a little bit.
Yeah, sure. Let's do it.
But first, a couple things. My seminal musical experience outside of a bunch of post 16-year-old things that I can't talk about on the air legally, was my parents had just split. I was just before my 10th birthday. I was devastated. My parents were the coolest people in the world, still are. I mean, they're both passed away, but they were the most fantastic people in the world.
Right.
My dad was a former monk, so a Trappist monk. Studied to be a priest. My mother's joke was, "Your dad studied to be a priest. I made him a father." That's a good Catholic joke.
Yeah.
And so I was just devastated. And so somebody told me to start journaling. And so I started just kind of writing, and it just came out shit, right? When you're that age, you don't know, like, you don't know how to get it.
And a lot of it's contrived, right? You're writing how you think people should think you write, you know what I mean? As opposed to really how you want to write. Yeah,
absolutely. So my sister, my closest sister in age, I'm one of 6 kids. She goes, "Hey, we got an extra ticket. My boyfriend and I are going to the band Chicago." It's 1971 or 72, 71. And so, what a gracious thing for an older sister to do, right?
Right.
Her boyfriend.
Right.
So they take me to Chicago, and I'm about 3rd row back. I've got a good contact high going on. And they're doing a song called Questions 67 and 68, followed by a dialogue, which is a dialogue between Terry Kath and James Pankow and one is an optimist and one's a pessimist, and they're talking about their college experience and about life and about about Nixon and all these things, and they're doing this stuff back and forth, and it's just this amazing thing. And I go, holy shit, man! I don't have to write. I don't have to create the experience. I need to go find it. It's in a lyric somewhere. Yes. And I just tore apart Carly Simon and Zeppelin and Pink Floyd and Elton John, old Elton John, and I just started ripping into the lyrics and going, oh my God, these guys have had that experience. I just got to go channel it. Right.
That's interesting. Very interesting.
So now we fast forward. In my wife and I at the time, so I discovered nootropics in right about that same time, 1994, 95. I was dropping somebody off at the Portland airport. I hear a guy on talk radio talking about, about this extract of periwinkle plant and how it's an acetylcholinesterase inhibitor, which keeps acetylcholine flowing instead of breaking down in the brain.
Right.
He just happened to be a half mile from where I was dropping him off at the Portland airport, drove up to see him, said, I will help your company for the next 6 months for free if you'll teach me what nutrition and nootropics and all this are about. And so, and he was a biochemist from University of Oregon. So I got a great intro to that, created my first product then. And my wife and I we were very natural. We weren't granola. I was an executive type guy. I was started guy, but all our kids were born at home. We were vegetarian for a few years. We threw the TV out, back in the early 90s so that
good move.
Focus on life, right? Yeah. And on our last birth, which is my youngest daughter, who actually works for us, she's fantastic. Livy is her name, also a musician, a rapper. Is she? When my wife was fairly small boned, she tore. The midwife gave her 4 oxycodone, and that became her muse. And so that was 1998. In 2008, she committed suicide on oxycodone, methadone, and alcohol. And the story, right? We've all got good friends close to us who have gone down that rabbit hole and couldn't find their way out. So so that's kind of how that happened. So here we are. I'm in 1998. I had just worked with a guy a company called PRweb.com, which was the largest online PR.
Yeah, they still are.
They're crazy. Yeah. We had 50 million visitors a month to our website. So we're doing very well. David McGinnis, the founder, good friend, who's just started a thing called newsworthy.ai. He's back in the news business. He we'd sold the company, and he said, "Hey, why don't you come up to Blaine? I know that this is a big loss for you. Let's figure out a way to recover you." So having good friends and who have a big heart were very helpful. So I went up there and I started going, okay, why are people addicted? Why do they get addicted to drugs? What keeps them from getting out of that whole thing? What are the problems? So I went to a rehab center in Astoria, Oregon. I'd go there about every 4 to 6 weeks. And I would just hang out on a Friday night when they were bringing in the paddy wagon. And people are coming in the door and they're completely whack out of their mind. Right. They don't know who they are, right? You know the gig. We've been there, right? And so they're saying, and this guy was an entrepreneur that owned it, didn't come from physician side. He came from I want to have an effective business side.
Right.
And he'd had a tragedy in his own life around addiction. So what I found was this, Carl, is in the addiction space, is the reason you don't go and get treatment is it's expensive. It's embarrassing.
Right. Stigmatized.
And 6 to 12 weeks later, or whatever happens to be the time, 6 months later, you're probably going to be addicted to something.
I was going to say the recidivism rate on a lot of these rehab centers is ridiculous because they're not solving the problem. They're interrupting your addiction for a while. They're distracting you for a while. But then they haven't gone and said, well, here's why you use. Like, oh, okay, so let's address that now. Let's go for the core. They just interrupt your addiction for a while, and then they send you back out with no tools.
Yeah, no, and it's a hermetically sealed environment, right? I mean, everything's perfected, everything is curated, so you're not going to run into the same situations that you did in the real world. You're not going to leave there and go, well, I can't get a job, so I'm going to go bum some. Right? I'm just going to take one hit. It's cool. I'm just going to have one hit.
Always one.
Just going to take the edge off, right?
Right.
And then they're back at it. So So I after talking to hundreds of these guys, I said, okay, here's the deal. If I can get you to think clearly, you're going to make better decisions. And if I can give you the energy that you had when you're on meth or whatever it was, whatever your muse was, if I can give you the energy to execute on those good decisions, you're going to get some level of success. And that's going to beat just having the high and floating on the couch and eating Cheetos.
Right.
And so that was kind of the theory, and I stayed with that. So I did 3,000 formulas. I had a software company at the time doing brainstorming software with the founder of Century 21 Real Estate. So I've been doing that for almost 15 years at that point. And so I had a large customer base of almost 400,000 customers, 396,000 customers who used our software to think cleverly or creatively. Hallmark Cards used it. Drew Carey used it to write comedy. It's a very, very famous piece of software. IBM, Nike, Microsoft.
So basically, it was software that provoked original thought.
Exactly. It's a lateral thinking software.
Because when I lived in Las Vegas, my friend and we used to play a game called Original Thought, and I would just throw two words out. It could be tree and car, and we would try to find
the connection
logical that would use the both of those. And actually, the person that taught me this in 1987-ish, I had the great fortune of being able to sit down with Timothy Leary. He showed up at UNLV to lecture, and it was a cold, November night, raining, and there was only like 12 or 18 of us that showed up. So not only did he do his lecture, but we got to sit down and talk to him one-on-one. And I talked to him about a bunch of my trips, and it was a fascinating, but he's the one who told me about using LSD to create original thought. You have to start out with two plots. You got to say, whatever it is in the genre that you're working on, look at these two things that have nothing to do with each other, no connection. Now find the connection to come up with an original thought. So that's fascinating.
That is it exactly. In fact, we tapped into 8 neuroscientists who understood this. This is Marsh Fisher, the founder of Century 21, and I. And what they came up with is, unless your brain is asking a question, you don't give a shit.
Right.
With the answers, right? So let's start with questions. So we tapped into quite a few hundred domain experts in advertising and in writing and in medical. And we said, what are the questions you ask when you're trying to solve your biggest problems? And then we cataloged those. And then we started 7 databases worldwide that people would feed into daily. So
it was constantly building. It was organically building on new trajectory.
Yeah.
Thought. That's fascinating.
Yeah. You would have a word that would be related to a movie title that would say John Leguizamo was playing the lead role in that, and here's the line he said related to the original word that you're looking for, and then that would suddenly drop into this little database, and it was great. Right?
That is cool. Very cool.
So I had access to really smart people, including biochemists and the rest. And so what I did was I put together a list of a little over 1,000 of my favorite people that I'd love to speak with that were my software clients. And I started collecting things like I started with basically, racetams, of course, first, like everybody was familiar with. And this pyroglutamic acid.
I remember that. Yeah.
And you have to use a lot of it. It's 6 to 10 grams, right? You kind of like, right. And you couldn't use, if you didn't couple it with a stimulant, it would make you sleepy because your brain would go into overdrive trying to actually convert it into the neurochemicals that it needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would take it at night. It helped me sleep well. It gave me vivid, lucid dreams. And then I'd wake up in the morning, and for about 2.5 to 3 hours, I'd be a monster, a creative monster. Then I'd fall off a cliff. I'd drink up a pot of coffee, and I'd continue on my day. Right. But what I did was I started pairing neurochemical, stimulants together, precursors, and testing them, sending them out to these people in literally a clear test tube filled with white powder that tasted like shit.
Right.
Dave McGinnis once said, we're having lunch one day, and I'm always giving him a tube of this powder, right? And Dave is a connoisseur. He's a food connoisseur. And so he's got an incredible palate. And in fact, he could tell you from 2 batches of Coca-Cola, of Diet Coke, he could tell you which one was the newer batch, and just by taste testing. Like he was that good. And you look at the bottom, you go, you're right. The dates show. I mean, it could be off by months, but he was nailed in. So this is great. Really cool guy. So he would say, yeah, the reason this wakes me up is it tastes so bad, right? Makes me want to puke my guts out. But I started doing pairings, testing up with these people, getting the data back. I started building an online database with MySQL. And then they'd say, yes, this worked, didn't work. It was good. It was neutral. It was bad. And here's some insights that might be valuable to you. Because I remember I had these really brilliant people that could actually give real feedback.
Right. Valuable feedback. Right.
Oh,
right.
Incredible. So 3,000 of these experiments later, I get to a thing that's starting to get pretty good. And my kid, who's a musician, he's a guitarist, Dustin, he had a little studio set up in our home in Blaine, right on the Canadian border in Blaine, Washington. You have to go through Blaine to get to Canada. And his buddies were rocking all night until like 4 a.m., typical rock star kids, right? They came into my room at 10 a.m. and said, dude, we need some of your Jesus juice.
Jesus. Yeah, I know. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So I cooked some up, but I made one molecular change to the Jesus juice that was a long chain that would create a longer extended experience for them with a emphasis on dopamine over acetylcholine, right? And they took it and they came back into my room 40 minutes later, and you could see, like, you know that look when a friend of yours comes on, they got the saucer eyes and they're going, dude, guess what?
Yeah, right.
I've solved all the world's problems.
Yeah, right, exactly. That's funny.
Yeah. So that's what they did. They came in, they go, dude, we just wrote a song in 40 minutes. We've never happened before. And then they left and they went and wrote 4 more songs a day or 5 more songs a day. It was crazy. And I said, hold it, maybe something, I got something here. So because I hadn't actually tried it that day.
Right.
So next day I try it. So I'm on it. So we fast forward. I'm on a date. I'm on a Match.com date a couple of weeks later. And the girl I'm having the date with is a real estate agent in a local area. We're at a little tiny bar, probably seats 40 people, right? It's right next to the college, Western Washington State University in Bellingham. And she goes, hey, that's my ex-boyfriend. You'll love him. He's a cool guy. Well, he should come down and sit. I said, yeah, that's great. Let's do it.
Right.
He happened to be one of the lead photographers for Sports Illustrated, and really cool British guy, right? 6'4", really cool guy. So he sits down, he's talking to us, he's telling stories about these different athletes he shot. And he goes, I got to get ahead. He goes, I said, what's your biggest problem? You got, biggest biochemical. And he goes, I'm as ADHD as they come. He goes, I can't focus for shit. I said, cool. I might have something for you. I reach into my pocket and I pull out a test tube of powder. And the first of the capsules I designed. And I said, this might be useful. And he goes, oh, cool. He goes, well, I'm flying out to South Africa tomorrow to go shoot Blade Runner. Remember Pistorius, the guy that shot his girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
So, and he goes, so he texts me from South Africa and he goes, dude, they had 20 handlers. I could give a shit about him. I got the shot. He goes, how do I get more of your stuff, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
He didn't even want to know what was in it, right?
He didn't care. Did not care.
Right. That's good.
It's great. Mike is an incredible guy. And so he just called me every other day for about 3 months. And finally I answer the phone. I never answer the phone, right? And I said, what do you need? He goes, I need more of that stuff. I don't care what it costs. Just make as much as you can. I'm 30 minutes away. I'll meet you at a restaurant. Let's do a deal. And so I made him a bunch of test tubes of this stuff, made some capsules, and he bought it from me and became a lifelong customer and friend and said, dude, you need to give this to more people. This is an amazing product. I understand it's safe.
I'm sorry. Ignore that. Go ahead. Keep going. You're on a roll.
So anyhow, yeah, it was great. And so that kind of started it. And he kind of encouraged me. He said, man, more people need this. So, okay. So I'm moving back to Portland, Oregon so I'm moving all the way across the state, the furthest you can move.
Right.
From Blaine, Washington to Portland, Oregon area, Vancouver, Washington. And I get a call from the SWAT team in Vancouver, Washington when I hit Seattle. That's 3 hours away. I get a call. I say, are you Mark Evinger? Yes, I am. Do you have a home on the Columbia River? I said, yes, I do. Well, the girl who's renting your home from you, she threatened her life with a 9mm. So we had to go in and, to avoid collateral damage with the neighborhood, we we had to go in and protect her. We couldn't find her, but we destroyed your house.
Hey, thanks for calling and telling.
Yeah, they appreciate it, brothers.
Right.
So I'm coming back, and I've got a 26-foot truck, and I've got the BMW towed, and and my kids are with me, and so I'm going, oh, this is an interesting predicament. And so I get down to Centralia, halfway between Seattle and Portland is Central, right?
Yeah, great. Yeah.
I'm about to park my butt at a microbrew that has a hotel next to it, and I get a call, or I get an email from a girl in Denmark, of all things, who says, "Hey, I understand that you've got the thing from that movie." I said, "What do you mean?" She goes,
yeah, what was it? Yeah, right. Limitless, yes.
Yeah. She goes, I heard you say you got a thing from that movie. And the people that can, the beta prototype customers of mine, they told me this summer, this is 2011. They told me that summer, they said, "Hey man," I said, "What do I call this thing?" And they said, it's so close to the thing in that movie, just call it NZT. So I called a good friend of mine who was a very successful entrepreneur. And I said, "Dude, can I do that?" And he looked up the trademark and registration. He goes, "They haven't trademarked it. I would just go for it."
Yeah,
and
right.
So, right. So we did. So she says, "Yeah, I'll design you a website if you'll give me some of that stuff."
Wow.
And so I'm thinking none of it, but I started building a Dropbox with a bunch of images and photos I'd take, just shitty photos I'd taken, and ideas on copy and and descriptions and the ingredients list and all that. And I gave her access to it, and I said, "Yeah, that sounds great." I expected 3 months, 4 months from now, I'd have a website. I woke up the next morning and booted up my iPhone, and it was ping, 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 and it was all PayPal links for people buying the product. She had put up a price based on what I told her. She'd put up a one-page WordPress website, the description of it, and a PayPal buy now link, and I had like 27 orders.
Wow. Like that, just like that. Right.
Yeah. And so my brother says, "No problem, brother. You got a place to crash at my house for a couple of weeks while you get your house back in order." Mm-hmm. And so my daughter and I, who I had trained her how to make these capsules, and I would make the powders, and we're literally hand scooping 60 micrograms, 20 milligrams, 100 milligrams. And we're hand scooping them, tamping them, building the capsules. We're filling up the tubes at exact quantities based on this simple form people filled out of their age and their height and their weight and their, what meds they're on and what vitamins they take and, what condition they're on and what they're trying to solve. And we're doing it at my brother's kitchen table, and we're trying to figure out how to ship them. We don't know what to do. And it took off from there. And then it just kept growing. We grew 11,900%.
So is there one product in the box? So first of all, when you order the Nootopia product, what you basically get is a chemistry set for your brain. Yeah. And it's filled with all different stuff that you use the app and you triangulate what works best for you. And then you can just order that blend from that point forward. So, I mean, it really, I remember getting my first chemistry set when I was a kid. We lived in Brooklyn in a one-room apartment. I was fascinated with everything, the sulfur, like everything that's what this was like. Getting this box, I opened it up. I was like, oh my God. This is a chemistry set for my brain.
Yes, I think right
there. Is there a product that's still in that box?
Hold on, I got to show you something, Carl. No, that table right there. I think it's right. No, that one. Is it right there? It is. Check this out, brother. You're gonna laugh because I'm the same. You and I share the same chemistry. So,
yeah, right.
So thank you, sweetheart. So I came from the same thing. When I was 6 years old, when I was 5 years old, I built my first radio. I just did it from reading Scientific American magazine and figuring out how to build a coil around a toilet paper tube.
Yes.
And and how to use a piece of gallium and
I remember you used to be able to buy those crystal radio kits, and then you would put the alligator clip on your radiator if you had steam heat.
Right.
And you can get AM radio stations all the time, like whatever you wanted to listen to. Yeah,
that's it. Exactly. So I built mine from scratch. And then when I was 6, there's a picture of me. We're still digging. My sisters are digging for the picture of me with my footy pajamas, unboxing my chemistry set in excitement. And so, and the first thing I made was the gas you use in the gas chamber to kill people. And I brought it. My stepdad was my dad's best friend at the time. And And he was there, and I made this, and I brought it to him. And I said, Jack, look what I did. And he goes, dude, you just made the stuff that killed the Jews. Be careful with the cat.
Was that a cyanide gas, or what was it?
Yeah, hydrogen cyanide. Yeah,
that's what I thought.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so I did. I think it was sodium ferrocyanide or potassium ferrocyanide and hydrochloric acid, and that's what you got.
Yeah,
it was pretty purple blue as the crystals came down at it. And I actually blew up my shed. My dad gave me his shed, right, his tool shed out back of the house. And
he figured if he blows that up, I don't mind. I don't want him to blow up the house, right?
Don't kill the house. Don't kill the house.
Sacrifice the shed, right?
And all of us kids, I'm sure you were the same way. We were all pyromaniacs from birth, right?
Yeah.
When
I used to go to my hold that thought. When I used to go to my grandmother's for the summer, because my parents wanted to get me out of Brooklyn for the summer, and I learned about the blue tip matches that you could strike it on your fingertip. Oh, dude, I was burning everything in sight because that was like my thumb. Oh, it lights up. I'm going to set fire to that. Yeah.
Oh, dude. So Carl, there was this substance you could get at the local hardware store.
Yeah.
It was in a steel cap container. You and I swear, I was on the West Coast, you were on the East Coast. We were terrorizing our respective territories, right?
Right.
This stuff had a little valve on the side. You would uncork it. You would pull these burnable powders out. You would light it on fire, and it would light like a torch.
Mm-hmm.
You'd put it back in. You'd close it down, and it actually made oxygen from burning it. Like its oxygen output was more than
I know what you're talking about. In fact, they use that today in airplanes. That's what those oxygen generators. That when the thing drops, it actually ignites a powder, and the powder burns and puts out raw oxygen. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay, exactly. So I figured out that if you took those, crushed them up into their native powder, mixed a little bit of sulfur and some other things for it to make it more exciting, and then you wrapped it in aluminum foil, you could make rockets that you could send off your backyard onto the high school roof.
Specifically to the high school roof. To
the shop class at the high school roof.
Right. That's funny.
So it was. I used to I had a Jacob's ladder in my shed, right, which is that lightning, between two high voltage, and then I had all my chemistry experiments going on, and I was often using. I loved electrolysis. There's a picture on Matt's website of me with my eyes were actually seared shut because I had made a carbon arc furnace when I was 6 years old, and I burned or 7 years old, and I burned my basically it blew up in my face.
Mm-hmm.
I was melting bauxite, the powder that becomes aluminum.
Right.
And I'm using again a carbon arc furnace I built out of scratch, out of a flower pot and some D-cell battery, the carbon middles out of a D-cell batteries.
Right.
And and so it blew up. It seared my eyes shut, my pure ducts, and plashed my face. They actually had to pull a layer of skin off of the front of my eyes to get rid of the pock marks that were in there.
Wow.
And it was great. And then making hydrogen became my next obsession. So hydrogen with electrolysis. Well, the hydrogen floats up to the top of the shed to the corrugated roof, and then it would come down. And once it got to the level where the Jacob's ladder could torch it, hydrogen's a great explosive.
Yes.
My brother and my dad are in the garage playing billiards. They hear an explosion. The front door of the shed blows off. The roof blows off, and my brothers are standing there with their cue sticks, going, "What the fuck?"
Yeah. And let's not forget. I think didn't they use hydrogen in Zeppelins back in the day? And
big time. That's what the Led Zeppelin cover from Zeppelin 1. That is exactly the problem.
Zeppelin catching fire, right? Exactly.
Yeah, the Hindenburg, man.
We have to take a break, but when we come back, I want to discuss which of the items in the Nootopia kit is from that original product that you called, I
love NZT.
Okay? Yeah, and I want to talk about the product, and I want to talk about the capsule design. It's very, very fascinating. The whole product is fascinating. This is not your typical supplement product that just comes out, has a couple studies that show this does this and this does that. This is really chemistry. This is really amazing. And it's obvious to anybody who opens the box, they go, holy crap, like decades of research went in to making this product. This isn't like, hey, let's just go into this business. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with more of Mr. Noots. Stay tuned. How often do you wake up in the morning and instantly wish you had just another hour of sleep? Maybe you didn't get enough sleep, or you have brain fog. Your energy is low, or you just can't concentrate. You run for coffee or an energy drink, but that barely moves the needle. Imagine having control over how you feel and being able to just flip a switch and turn on your brain within 10 minutes of waking up without coffee or caffeine. I've personally experienced this over the past few months since trying Nootopia. Nootopia is the most advanced brain support and cognitive enhancement system that I've ever tried. It's like a chemistry set for your brain. Nootopia specializes in personalized brain supplements, also known as nootropics. Nootopia has raised the bar on the nootropic category beyond anything that exists today. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Nootopia. That's Nootopia and enter the code SHR10 for an additional 10% off. You will not be disappointed in this product. Most people have heard of phytoestrogens, but did you know there are beneficial phytoandrogens? The top source of these is pine pollen. It even contains trace amounts of testosterone and DHEA. If you're looking for a 100% natural testosterone booster, this is worth trying. Lots of men love it, and it even works for women. Lost Empire Herbs offers the highest quality wild harvested, non-irradiated pine pollen backed by a 365-day money-back guarantee. It works for you, or you don't have to pay for it with nothing to send back. Go to shrnetwork.biz/Lost Empire. Use code SHR. Get 15% off your order today. Are you 35 or older? Every year after puberty, your growth hormone decreases sometimes by 50% by the age of 35, and it only keeps going down from there. This affects everything from making it harder to recover from workouts, sleep, and a general loss of a sense of well-being. It also affects your ability to get and stay lean. BioPro Plus is the first of its kind, 100% non-synthetic alternative to prescription synthetic growth hormone treatments. All the benefits without any of the needles or side effects, and 100% safe. Previously only available through doctors, you can go to shrnetwork.biz/biopro, that's BIOPRO, and use code SHR30 for $30 off today. If you've listened to Superhuman Radio for any length of time, you know I'm a big proponent of peptides. One of my favorites is GHKCU, the blue copper peptide. It has the ability to repair and regenerate more youthful expressions of skin cells, reversing the signs of aging. Restore Cell's Stem Cell Awakening Serum, along with their other products, contain potent formulations of blue copper peptide and only the highest quality organic ingredients. Superhuman Radio listeners can now save 25% site-wide. Buy their complete set and receive a free exfoliating cleanser. Go to shrnetwork.biz/blue and use the code SHR25. That's SHR25. Remodel your skin today. Remember those rectangular toaster pastries you used to love when you were a kid? Well, Legendary Foods has just made them better. The new cake-style tasty pastry is like nothing you've ever had before. With 20 grams of high-quality protein and less than 1 gram of sugar, you'll feel like you're cheating, but you're not. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use the code SHR10 to save 10% off your purchase of tasty pastries. Now available in cookies and cream, red velvet cake, birthday cake, blueberry, strawberry, brown sugar cinnamon, and hot fudge sundae. Go to shrnetwork.biz/legendary and use code SHR10 today. C60, also known as Buckminster fullerene, is the most powerful, most versatile antioxidant in the world. It's been shown in studies to double the lifespan of rodents. We all know the importance of taking antioxidants to slow aging, reduce inflammation, and improve mitochondrial function and energy production. But there are literally hundreds of antioxidants that would cost you thousands of dollars to take every day. I take one. I take C60 from C360 Health. Revive and Rejuvenate are two blends that harness the power of C60. Don't waste another minute. Go to shrnetwork.biz/revive and use the code SHR for 15% off and free shipping inside the United States today.
This is the Superhuman Channel, where we use oxygen for the power of good.
Welcome back. We are talking about the mecca of nootropics today.
Love it.
Is that all these other nootropic companies are in trouble because they're frauds, because their products hardly produce any effect for anybody. I can say that honestly because I've tried a lot of them. But this is a different story. When you open this box up, you realize this is not your grandfather's nootropic product. This is something completely different. Which of the products in the package is that original product that you started out with?
This is my 3D animation, man.
Yeah, there you go. It's really.
You know what I just realized, Carl?
What?
You are the Joey Diaz of intelligent radio.
That's funny. He's a big. I like him. He's a good guy. I like him a lot.
Yeah, no, you are. You're the man. So what was equivalent to our NZT, our original NZT?
Yeah.
That's what Nectar X is.
Okay.
Yep. And then if you couple Nectar X with a Focus Savagery, so basically, start sipping Nectar X, put it in 24 to 32 ounces of water, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then start sipping it, and then you're going to get to a level. You're going to bring your state up to a level of good focus, good energy, good clarity, right? And motivation. You're going to have a dopaminergic motivation.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the early afternoon, if you need an extra, like, okay, I've got to work another 8 or 10 or 12 hours or whatever, right? Then buckle up and add that to it. And
Which
what it'll do,
I couldn't see what that was. Which one?
Oh,
was
that's
that?
a Focus Savagery.
Savagery, yeah, fast savagery, right.
Yep. So, and what'll happen is, and if you want a subtler approach to that, you can either use an Upbeat or an Apex. Okay.
Okay.
But what it does is it's going to have its own lean towards high dopamine with a little bit of GABA. We like to offset the dopamine punch with a little bit of GABA so you don't go crazy, right?
Yeah, right. Because that allows you to be focused and not frantic. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. If you've ever done Adderall, meth, speed, what like my employees would tell me whenever I tried Adderall is they said, "Hey man, you I know you get a lot done when you're on that, but you're such an asshole."
Right. It changes your personality. It does. There's no doubt.
Yeah. It totally mutes your connection. So that's a cool combination. What'll happen is it'll start tapping into the nootropics and the antioxidants and adaptogens and the choline donors that you've already loaded yourself with the with the Nectar X, and it'll start sampling those and using those as fuel for for your hyper focus kind of feeling, that focus ferocity feeling, that groove that you're trying to get into. So
Katrina Miller is asking on Facebook, is this good for essential tremor? I'll let you answer. I have an opinion also.
Depending on so here's the deal. Like this, absolutely.
Yeah.
Xamarin Juice that's your baby when it comes to that. And I would also say that Upbeat would be very good. Again, I'm not a doctor. We're not answering this as a doctor, but from an insider on that condition, yes, those two be great. And also remember that everything that we make is custom blended specifically for the individual.
Mm-hmm.
So in her case, I would blend it more towards the 0-1 intensity than towards the 5 intensity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to help her to get through that. And then of course, I would do a boatload of oils as well.
Like essential oils?
No, I would do a boatload of krill oil or algae oil or fish oil. I would get into that 6 grams a day to 10 grams a day. But don't be afraid of that. That's going to help significantly.
Okay, so she sheds a little more light on the topic, and she says it's for my hubby. So let's talk about essential tremor. Essential tremor is not Parkinson's. They call it Parkinsonism because the symptoms are similar to developing Parkinson's. Men develop Parkinson's tenfold more frequently than women until women go through menopause. When testosterone in men drops, so does estradiol. Estradiol is linked to Parkinsonism. Back in the 60s in Brooklyn, they were cutting heroin with something called MPTP, which is a drug now used. It was an industrial solvent, but today they use it in scientific experiments to mimic Parkinson's disease because it immediately disrupts the neurons in the substantia nigra, and within hours you end up with tremor. But you don't have Parkinson's. It's called Parkinsonism, and that's why I want to make sure you understand. But men who get on testosterone therapy may not reverse essential tremor, but it'll stop progressing. So I'm glad you said your husband, because your husband should be examining testosterone replacement therapy seriously from a good doctor, because that can actually stop the progression and in some cases reverse it. But the Zamner spray is amazing. I usually take a spray right before the show, like 3 or 4 sprays. I literally feel it within minutes. Yeah, stuff is great. It's in a glass bottle. You wouldn't be putting that in a glass bottle if there was it would be very expensive to put it in a glass bottle. Why are you using glass?
One is that we didn't want to leach any plastics into the actual product itself. And even though we've got some, obviously we've got some liquid safe plastics. The other is, you'll notice it's a black glass, is we didn't want degradation from sunlight, from daylight. Okay. So those two, UV degradation. And the other is we wanted it's almost like a colloidal suspension in there. So we've got microparticles floating in there, and we want to keep those suspended. Light will have a tendency to polarize them, change the polarity, and then suddenly they'll start settling out, or they'll bond to a different chemicals. So
I was fooled. I didn't realize it was empty because it still felt so heavy, and I was like, "Wait a minute, there's nothing left." And then I opened up. I was like, "Holy crap, this is glass!" Like nobody uses glass unless you have to.
Right. Oh no. It was critical. It took a long time to get it to the point where we could actually suspend it. We originally made it in a powder that became a drink, and then we were starting to work with kava at a very, really fine concentrations of powder. In fact, one of your sponsors is Lost Empire, and I love those folks.
Yeah,
they're great folks.
Well, we actually have True Kava also, which they make a really sophisticated kava product as well. Katrina, I want to come back and mention something. He's on TRT. Make sure his estrogen levels are high enough. A lot of doctors, when they put men on TRT, they try to suppress estradiol. Estradiol is what protects you from developing tremor. In fact, the rodents that they did the studies with, an Italian doctor from Toronto gave MPTP to rodents. One group of rodents was infused with saline. The other group was infused with saline plus estradiol. The group that got saline only developed tremors within hours of being exposed to MPTP. The group that was infused with estradiol took weeks before they finally succumbed and developed tremors. So make sure his estradiol levels are high. Look at this. Here, let's see. They tried. I removed his AI. Good. He should not be on. Aromatase inhibitors should not be given to any man on TRT. Estradiol is important for men to protect neurological issues with their body. And also, estradiol influences lipolysis. If you put a guy on TRT and AIs, he will not get as lean as if you just put him on TRT and let his estrogen do what it wants. And plus, estrogen is anabolic. People don't realize this, but when they give cattle trenbolone acetate, and then they give them trenbolone acetate and estradiol benzoate, they put on 50% more weight when estradiol is there, which means estradiol is anabolic too. But yeah, make sure his E2 levels are high, so that'll protect his brain. Talk about the capsules.
Hold on, Carl. You preach the truth, brother. I love the depth of your site. You are not just a talking head, man. I love
big head. I got a huge head, man. Yeah.
No, I love it. I get an opportunity to do a number of podcasts, and I love the fact that you're as deep science as anyone I've spoken with. So it's great, man. Big high five to you, brother.
Thank you.
And by the way, I hope I'm in the future. We're going to be releasing a couple of our hormone centric products, and I want to put you on my early release list. I think you're going to dig it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Absolutely.
You bet.
Talk about the capsule and a capsule, partitioned with the oil and the powder. Like I bit a couple of them. Obviously, they're precisely thick so that they have a timed release. Yeah. Talk about that. I mean, if if I bite it, am I circumventing the process?
A little bit. Yeah. So when I was developing it, one of the big issues I had was in order to navigate the blood-brain barrier, you want to, it works best in a controlled environment to have, what I mean by controlled environment, if you want to modulate things and you want to manage their process through the blood-brain barrier, you want to tie the nootropic into an oil if possible. And then you want to, in that oil, you want to have some components that are going to be really effective for potentiating the nootropics as well. So, and then the other side of it is you want to have certain components in the bloodstream prior to the oil hitting or after the oil hits. So you want to make the capsule dissolve at a certain rate, and you want to have the oil dissolve at a certain rate in different parts of the gastrointestinal tract. Mm-hmm. So what I made sure that in the regular capsule, we have two different kinds of capsules, as you noticed, is the ones with the oil at the top. The powder dissolves at right around 4.2 pH, right? So it's right in the stomach area, right? The stomach acid.
Right.
And then the soft gel will dissolve more towards the 6 pH.
Yeah.
So it's going to go
like an enteric, almost like this is like
yes.
a timed enteric coated 1-2 capsule. Wow, that's impressive.
So now you've got these nootropics floating around in the bloodstream, and they're starting to bond to certain components in the bloodstream. And then you have the oil going through at the post duodenum, in slow releasing. It's glomming onto those nootropics, coming through the blood-brain barrier. And then through enzymatic activity, it's either separating into the neurochemicals you need, or it's coming through and it's basically lodging itself where it needs to be in the synaptic cleft. And so that's kind of how we played that game. It took a long time to kind of figure that out. Mm-hmm. By going through the performance curve of certain compounds and blends that we would do. Some would have this very long curve, but you'd have maybe a crash at the end, or they have a very short curve where you just peak and fall. And I wanted to bring it up and keep it smooth as possible, and then not even know that it went away. That would be ideal,
right?
But not keep you up till 3 a.m. either. So
yeah, exactly. That's a big problem with most nootropics loaded with caffeine, and then when you want to go to sleep, you can't, and then you got to turn to something like Delta 8 THC or something to get yourself down and relaxed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Are there any compounds that are dopamine reuptake inhibitors in your blends?
Yeah. In fact, that's what the focus of savagery is essential to that. And that was one of the big, here's a philosophy that we have on our products is twofold. One is when I was doing these pairings of compounds and then getting these results, right, and sending them to our beta testers, we found that if you didn't have an antioxidant, the oxidative stress your body was going through would combat the effects of the nootropic benefit. So your body's fighting something already. If you didn't have an adaptogen, right, the other side of the stress, right, the noradrenaline spikes and the serotonin usage from the gut level serotonin would start having challenges in their balance characteristics. And then again, you're fighting the nootropic benefit. But if we had those two pieces in place and we had a choline donor, because nootropics are speeding up the synaptic activity, right? So you're going to use more choline. Right. You need a choline donor in there. And then you had the nootropic itself. Well, the process of the nootropic, right, being dissected into the various compounds, the various neurochemicals that your brain needs, puts an energy deficit on the brain, right? So it's a load. Well, that's where a short-term stim is effective, as long as it doesn't have a fast attack or a fast decay. If you have too fast attack, too fast decay, what you've done is you've just shortchanged your whole process. Right. You made a 15-minute to fame nootropic, and you're really just running on the noradrenaline and adrenaline that comes from.
Right.
But here's an interesting thing: if you take capsaicin, or like the extract from hot peppers,
yeah.
Take that and you take a micro dose of that, right? A subclinical dose of that. You don't taste it in the mouth, but your stomach senses it. The feedback loop in your stomach, including the vagus nerve in the brain, is going to sense that, and it's going to do a slow, controlled release of adrenaline. So in that, what you're going to do is you're going to get this wonderful, you're not going to spike anything. You're not going to use up serotonin, trying to counter the adrenal release that's going to, right, to keep your heart from bouncing out of its chest.
Right.
Kind of thing. So you get this really nice control. Well, that's not, that's going to manage your system more affordably. And you're not going to start using up the different neurochemicals and biochemicals that are going to affect performance in a negative way. You're going to start using them at a very nice regulated rate. And then here's the trick. On top of that stack topology is why don't we use, instead of feeding the brain directly those neurotransmitters, the dopamine, the noradrenaline, right, the serotonin, the GABA, instead of feeding them direct, which they have a hard time typically navigating the blood-brain barrier anyhow.
Right.
Why don't we use precursors? And then we will find creative ways to bond those precursors to the nutrients necessary to create the enzymatic process to process them in the brain. So we can give you as many precursors as you need and have an unlimited source of, say, dopamine.
Right.
Like in Focus Savagery, right? Focus Savagery and Nectar X, or Focus Savagery and Power Solution are it's an indomitable solution to getting a flow of dopamine that doesn't run out. So you don't crash at the end of it, and then you wake up the next day and you feel like crap, like you would on a dopaminergic.
Right.
Or if you're on a dopaminergic drug where it's trapping the neurochemical between the synapses, flowing it. There's a calcium ion cloud around the synapses. They look like mushrooms, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's flowing it around it. Then when it fades and that neurochemical flows finally past the synaptic gap and sticks on the other side, right, to go do its activity, now you have a deficit of dopamine or serotonin.
Right.
And now you feel like shit. This is what happens when Molly users, right, end up tripping, right, and they're done with their trip, and then they put themselves in a corner the next day, right?
Yeah. They can't do anything. They in fact, I think some of them actually can destruct, or what's the word? Their serotonin receptors for a while. I don't know if it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh well, yeah. You start looking at that destruction. It's terrible.
So that means that Focus Savagery must help guys in bed who finish too fast.
So we have again when we go offline, I'm going to send you some stuff that's going to address. So I'm going to go back just a second. We created a product. I created a product for the refractory period to shorten the refractory period, right? So guys that would come too fast and then not be able to get it up again. Right. That's a problem. And a lot of I'm 60 years old, right?
Yeah.
So my testosterone should suck. It doesn't. I've got incredible testosterone, and my ability to perform sexually should be moderated at best. And I think I'm pretty good at that.
Right.
So the way to do that is one is you've got to control a couple of the factors in there, and so we created a product that actually we're releasing it next month. June or July is when we're releasing Dopa Drops. Early part of July, we're releasing a product called Dopa Drops. It's a 3-stage dopaminergic solution that is specifically made. I designed it originally to handle refractory period.
Right.
And again, yes, Focus Savagery is great for that. And also a Power Solution is incredible for that because both of those are also vasodilators. So versus a vasoconstrictor. Yeah. And we're big on nitric oxide flow as well. So, and then what we did is we coupled it with a product called Euphoria. We're right now we're in a naming schema with our team to say, do we want to call it that? But so what it does is it preloads your brain with dopamine and precursors so that you got a dopamine flow happening. Right.
So you got a long tail.
Exactly. And then the basic MAOI inhibitor with phenylethylamine, you get this wonderful release of all the pleasure chemicals, right? And but it lasts for about 4 hours.
Wow.
So you get this great, and it's an incredible precursor, and orgasmic release is greatly enhanced. But for other things, like if you're trying to get work done, it's also a super focusing element. If you just feel anhedonia, where you don't feel pleasure anymore, right? Because you've either burned out receptors, or this is a great way to get beyond that and to help you feel much more like you're in state. Or if you're having a problem with cyclical depression and you just want you want to go experience that peak so you can kind of embed it like NLP might do, right?
Right.
Because you've done enough acid and shrooms.
I actually took an NLP class from Tony Robbins when I owned my cellular phone company in Las Vegas back in the early 80s. And Cell One, which was Craig McCaw's company.
Yeah.
Craig McCaw actually came to Las Vegas and signed me up. I was the second agent they ever had because I had about 8,000 customers on IMTS mobile phone and paging.
Oh my God.
And they hired Tony Robbins to go around to their agents and help them be better salespeople. And they taught us neurolinguistics programming. It was fascinating. It was really, really nice.
Oh, I love. Yeah, it was an anchor for me. I mean, that's exactly what I learned was the anchor, right?
Yeah.
In timeline therapy. It was funny because in the early 90s, I was a Telego salesman.
What was Telego?
Telego was a prepaid. It was one of the first small format phones, right? In again, early 90s, 93, 94, 95. And it was prepaid. It was like $1.15 a minute. But it was a great emergency phone or call home or call the sweetheart, do you need some milk? Right. It was great. But it was, for me, it was a tool for me to learn how to actually talk to people and meet with them right. And do, because I'm an introvert by nature. And so it was a great tool. Yeah, no shit. Right.
Right. Yeah. I would have lost that bet. We have to take our last commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about how people can get this product. Like all things that Bioptimizers does is a money back guarantee. They don't want you to keep it if you don't like it. So we'll talk more about the product when we come back. Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Being superhuman means being conscientious about the choices we make. White Oak Pastures is superhuman when it comes to raising livestock. They're committed to animal welfare, land regeneration, and rural revival. They responsibly manage the entire process from the pasture to your doorstep. High-quality, pasture-raised, great-tasting meat from a farm you can trust. Full nose-to-tail selections. They even have options for your pet. Go to shrnetwork.biz/White Oak and use the code SUPERHUMAN to save 10% off your entire first order. Are you suffering from signs of an unhappy gut? Diversity is the key to healthy, robust inner ecosystem. Body Ecology probiotic liquids are made by fermenting organic seeds, biodynamic brown rice, and chickpeas together to create a diverse culture found nowhere else on Earth. It's the secret to restoring your gut's microbiome for a healthier digestive tract, improved immune function, and longevity. Take 20% off by visiting the website shrnetwork.biz/body eco, shrnetwork.biz/bodyeco, that's BODYECO, and using the code SHR20.
New Mass Pro Synthogen X2 just upped its own legendary game. To distance itself even further from the rest of the pack, Synthogen X2 now has double the key active ingredients. If you've ever wondered what steroid-like recovery feels like, Synthogen X2 delivers. See why others compare it favorably to powerful bodybuilding drugs at synthogen.com. Mass Pro Synthogen. When you train with it, you'll gain with it.
Plant medicine has become all the rage for mental optimization. Now there's an ancient plant medicine rapidly growing in popularity that experts believe might just be the alcohol of the future. It's called True Kava. Kava is a natural food-grade elixir that has been used for over 3,000 years by South Pacific Islanders as safe, non-addictive alternative to drugs and alcohol. By naturally boosting the brain's main feel-good chemicals, dopamine, serotonin, and GABA, Kava provides you with both increased relaxation and mental clarity at the same time. True Kava is a new form of stabilized full-spectrum traditional kava that is third-party lab tested for quality and safety. Go to shrnetwork.biz/true kava, and that's TRUKAVA, all one word, and use code SHR for 25% off today. I would easily say that I am the hugest proponent you will ever meet to doing anything that will improve the quality of my sleep, and that's because sleep is linked to just about every metabolic disorder we see in our population today. One of the easiest things you can do to improve the quality of your sleep is to get a pillow that can be shaped into the exact form factor here that allows you to get your best night's sleep, and that is MyPillow. I've been sleeping with MyPillow for a few years now, and I can tell you that when I have to travel and stay in hotels, I don't get a good night's sleep because I don't have MyPillow with me. Right now, you can save up to 60% off of everything offered to improve the quality of your sleep at shrnetwork.biz/MyPillow when you use the code SHR. Or you can call toll-free 800-889-4938. And remember to use code SHR to save up to 60% off of everything at their website.
Dogs should be powered by fat and protein, not carbs. That's why Visionary Pet makes low-carb, ketogenic dog food for dogs of all breeds and life stages. From kibble to freeze-dried and even low-carb treats, all Visionary Pet recipes are very low-carb, ketogenic, and made with 100% real meat protein. Shop now and use code SHR for 20% off your first order today. Your dog deserves the lifelong benefits of optimal nutrition. Make the switch to Visionary and see why smart dogs eat low carb.
You're listening to the Superhuman Channel. We're ripped and we're ready.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you, brother.
So I want to reiterate this. So everything that Bioptimizers does, they stand behind. They don't want to keep your money if the product doesn't do what you want it to do. If you go to shrnetwork.biz/Nootopia, Nootopia, and use the code SHR10, you'll save an additional 10% off. They already have dropped their prices big to get people to try the product. And if you don't like it, you get your money back. So don't waste any time. If you have felt bad about the missed promises of other nootropic products, this is going to change your mind. Hey, no pun intended, it's going to change your mind. Yeah, like that. Let's use that as a slogan. So what else should we talk about in this kit that you're proud of? Because obviously this is your baby here. What else is in that box that you're really proud of?
Well, so let's go 30,000 feet for a second. And I think you said it, right? The promise of nootropics was take a pill and become Bradley Cooper, right?
Right.
And that's clearly a broken promise. But I think part of that is that a lot of people felt that they were going to sit on their ass on the couch with the Cheetos. They were going to pop a pill and they were going to clean their shitty apartment and they were going to write their bestseller and they were going to get the chicks and they were going to day trade and, right. And in reality, it's an interaction between you and your goals, you and your desires, you and your process. I like to say it's not just the pill, it's the process. So we built a system, and this is Matt Gallant's genius, is we built a system where you have various stacks and then you have what we call stacks of stacks. So each of the individual components affects a certain group of neurochemicals, right? To give you a certain performance thing.
Right.
But then on top of that, you can take these two and we go through, we have a full guide that comes with it. And we have an app that guides you through it. And we have a booklet that gives you the insights, the Brilliant Mind Blueprint. And what we want to do with this is, by the way, it gives you instantaneous feedback. You've got your app. You say, I took this today, because that's what it guided me on this journey, this 30-day journey. I took this today. I felt like this. I was doing this, and it gave me this result. And I felt one of these 4 states. And then here's my comments on it. We take that in. Our customization team takes that, and we're building a database of how you react in every situation, in every process, so that the next month when we reformulate your product, it takes care of those issues and it gets you closer and closer and closer to your ideal. So every product's going to give you a specific goal result. I want more serotonin because I want to be more happy or more sensitive to people, or I want to be more, I want to have more control over my emotions. Or I want to be a savage. I want to be focused. I want to be an animal. I want to go take them to the mat, right?
Right.
And so we've got that solution. Or I want to be a combination, or I want to be this state in the morning and this state in the afternoon. So what we've done is we built a comprehensive program that anybody can engage in. And we've outlined it. We made it really, really easy so that you can go through the process of selecting the state selecting the mindset that you want to have, and being able to program that mindset at will, and knowing that you're going to get that outcome for 4 to 8 or 12 hours, depending on what you want. Like we have one of my favorite products is called Apex.
Mhm.
Now Apex is the subtle monster. So Apex is a Solastris paniculatus extract combined with some really, really effective nutrients and some other cofactors to basically give you a super high level of ATP output throughout your day. Adenosine triphosphate, right? The natural energizer of your cell, along with this high cognitive acetylcholine and oxygenated acetylcholine level in the brain, so that your thinking is good, your memory is good, and your energy levels are very consistent. And you'll notice, like for me, I take one of these, and you don't take it every day. This is this kind of thing you take once or twice a week. When you've got that, I've got to be live at 7 a.m. and at 11 p.m. I still need to be on my game, but I want to fall asleep at 11:30 or midnight and not have some kind of a stimulant problem.
Right.
That's your solution, right? So, and I built it for that. But here's the other thing. A lot of people have really fucked up base neurology. They are smoking too much weed, or they're hitting the bottle too much. They got the brown alcohol flowing through the veins. This is a problem. And when I started developing these products, weed was just becoming legal in Oregon, Washington, where I was located. And it had just made Denver, right? And, and Oakland was starting to get it. And so I was going, and a lot of our customers were the kind of customers that said, I'm into state change. And the one thing I'm familiar with, being 50 years old or 40 years old or 60 years old, is I know what weed does for me, right?
Right.
So I wanted to try to get people to reboot their system and get a clear palate, right? It's like taking ginger with and with your sushi.
Yeah.
I wanted a clear palate to work from, so that whatever neurochemical enhancement I wanted to put on top of it would be more effective. So created a thing called Mental Reboot. And there's a nighttime and a daytime cap. The nighttime one is this, right? This multi-phase capsule. And what that does is, while you're sleeping, the brain shrinks. And when that happens, it basically is opening up pathways around all of the capillaries, and cerebral spinal fluid is flowing around the capillaries, extracting all the detritus, the tau proteins, right? Right. And it's cleaning it out, because mitochondria shits all day long, right? What it does, it processes nutrients, and it creates ATP,
Right.
And there's detritus. There's some stuff that comes out of that.
Yeah, sure.
So the brain naturally knows how to clean the brain, but most people get shitty sleep, and so they don't really get the full processing power. And that's why as we get older, we wake up and feeling less and less sharp, like we did when we were 8 years old. Right? Pop out of bed, right? Head on over, get the fishing pole, and head on down to the creek. Right? You don't get that. So, or in the Bronx, head out with the boys and go cause some mayhem.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. No, but I know I've been thinking about this recently. Like I used to jump out of bed. Life was so exciting. And it's not that my life isn't exciting now, but I just don't wake up feeling that way. Now,
it's the Joey Diaz effect.
I've been yeah, exactly. I've been depending too much on Delta 8 THC, which isn't like regular THC from flower. I mean, it's really different. In fact, if you take a lot of Delta 8, it'll actually give you really bad anxiety. Like I never got anxiety from weed ever. I mean, I smoked weed for so many years. It's just stupefying to me that I can still even function. But like Delta 8, like I know I can take a half of a gummy. If I take more than that, I'll literally wake up in the middle of the night. And I know I talk myself down. I go, oh, this is the Delta 8. I'm feeling anxiety, and then I go back to sleep. But I noticed that the nights that I don't depend on caffeine, which I need to do this reset. I forgot it was even in that box. I really need this because I've abused caffeine for well over 20 years. I'm talking about 1,000, 1,500 milligrams a day of anhydrous, plus a coffee here and there and all that. And so I don't sleep. I don't fall asleep on days that I use caffeine. So I got to go to the Delta. The days that I don't use caffeine, about 2 days after not using caffeine, I fall asleep easy. I have more restful sleep. I get more deep sleep. I get more REM sleep. Everything runs. But it all starts with not having caffeine. And if I do use Delta 8, I notice that I wake up in the morning groggy. When I don't use Delta 8, I jump out of bed and I'm ready for the day. So I'm going to do this reset tonight, actually. I'm going to start with the nighttime tonight.
Awesome. Start with nighttime and then do the morning one. In the morning, what that does is, again, it sets the level of precursors so that whatever you take on top of that will be amplified.
Okay.
And it keeps the clarity going. There's a thing called triacetyluridyne in that is really bioavailable sublingually. So the one you take in the morning is sublingual. It's also in the nighttime one. And it does an incredible job of helping to scavenge the crap out of your system and give you clarity.
In fact, I have, you know how everybody has a theory of aging? You know, Aubrey de Grey says the mitochondrial theory of aging. Dr. Blagascloni has been on my show numerous times. He talks about senescent cells and how I actually think, when I look at it critically, I think all of aging is just the results of metabolic debris accumulation. And if you can get it out of your body, you'll be more youthful. So that's just an idea I've had.
I just spent some time with this guy.
Yeah, Huberman. Yeah. I'm sorry. You and I are just riffing, so I'm not even paying attention to the clock anymore. Yeah, Huberman. He's a good guy, huh?
Oh, incredible guy. He, by the way, one of the most generous speakers I've ever spent time with. And in fact, and I gave him a kit, and he's doing this to the audience. He's going, dude, check this out. Check this out. This is our new packaging coming out in a couple months. Can't wait to do that. But
you know what's really funny? He did a show with somebody talking about Phaedogia agrestis, which comes from Nigeria. I discovered Phaedogia agrestis in 2006. I was reading some obscure journal of andrology. I think it was like the Japanese Journal of Andrology. And I found this paper from a scientist named Dr. Toyin Yakubu from the University of Ilorin in Ilorin, Nigeria. And I had him on my show. And I am probably the only person in America that understands how Phaedogia works, how it raises testosterone. It increases testicular cholesterol without affecting any of the lipids in your body. And the more cholesterol in your testes, the more, and when they get stimulated, they produce more testosterone. But yeah, I mean, I literally did that show, and then everybody started adding it to their supplements. I'm not smart enough like Life Extension to hold off and don't talk about it until I have a product on the market. You know.
No, it's so funny you say that, because it was 2013 when I first saw it. It's 2018 when I started incorporating it into solutions, and I was still looking at. And by the way, when you talk about cholesterol, for those of your listeners who are looking at their cholesterol numbers and being told that they're out of whack and that they need to start doing statins and those things, I highly recommend that they get a second opinion.
Absolutely.
And there are other approaches that are much more effective from my perspective.
The University of Hawaii did 2 studies, and now other universities are doing similar studies. They looked at people 60 and above. Those with the highest cholesterol levels live the longest.
Exactly. Yeah.
Shit. And then you go to your doctor, and he's like, "Oh, your cholesterol's 178. We need to put you on a statin drug." No, I don't think so.
Yeah. Well, it's a great way to crash your hormones. Right?
Oh, crash everything. Your brain is made from cholesterol. That's it.
Right.
Let's starve cholesterol from your brain. Let's rip it off. Yeah.
That's great. So so we basically built a comprehensive system. The whole idea is you're going to find some things that you love, you're going to find some things you like, and you're going to find some things that are not effective for you. So let's do that. And our approach to it was, okay, that's awesome. Give us the feedback so that what we can do is the next order, we're going to tweak everything, improve the things that you love, and the thing that didn't work for you, you can either eliminate it and you can get more of the other things, or you can try again and we can hot rod it and see, okay, maybe we just needed to adjust some of the parameters, some of the neurochemical parameters of it, and get it to work. And that I think is the most fun. When I started doing this with that prototype group of a little over 1,000, is I found if I didn't adjust anything, I got 30 to 42% of the people had a positive experience. Another 20 to 30%, even 40% had a neutral experience, and the rest had a negative experience.
Right.
When I started adjusting it, I could get it up to 97% efficaciousness by tweaking the formulas, sending them new revs, tweaking the formulas, sending new revs, and getting it to the point, aha, there was one neurochemical, or change in one of these precursors that was everything they needed. And sometimes it's microdoses. It's 60 micrograms. It's 150 micrograms, right?
But what is this blasphemy? You mean we're individuals?
Hold it. I know.
I mean, we just discovered individualized medicine. Diet is individualized. Nootropics, everything's individualized. The idea that somebody can do a study and say this is what everybody needs to do is complete bullshit. And we need to start paying more attention to N equals 1 as opposed to N equals many. Really, when you think about it.
Oh,
let me put this up again. So, if you want to give this a try, if you really want something that will fulfill all of the missed promises of what nootropics are going to do, go to shrnetwork.biz/Nootopia, Nootopia. Use the code SHR10 to save an additional 10% off. 9 game-changing formulas, 4 breakthrough brain stacks, infinite customization. Think about it. This is a blend just for you. This is the blend that works for you. This is not a kitchen sink product, one size fits all. Limited research says it does this, it does this. It's going to work just for you because they're going to customize it just for you. So this is the and of course, as all BiOptimized product, they have a 100% money back guarantee. They don't care why. If it didn't work for you, just send it back. So that's it. Great stuff. Really, and I love it. I can't wait to try the reset. Oh, the book is great.
And so on chapter 4 of the book, and we got 2 books. I mean, we have many books, but that's the one, brother.
Yeah.
So on chapter 4, we've got managing the high performance lifestyle. So the thing is, we've got a book called Sick to Superhuman, and in that book, right, to take it, and there was tip of the hat to you, Carl.
Really,
Sick to Superhuman, tip of the hat. I was developing after dealing with really super high performance individuals. My first customer being this Olympics photographer, right?
Right.
My second was a guy that invented the first file sharing technology. Right. My third was the president of a very significant social media company. It just went like this. So I was really fortunate that the word of mouth on that was really high. And so high performance individuals have a tendency to think we're running a marathon and that think we can break through walls most of these high-end CEOs are like that. The challenge is eventually you hit the wall. Mm-hmm. And so we've written that in there. Being athletes, I'm an endurance athlete from way many years ago. Mm-hmm. Matt being a professional trainer, Wade being a world-class bodybuilder. Mm-hmm. We've all faced that. I know you yourself faced this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And recovering from that burnout, or better, not getting yourself to that point, is super important. So how do you manage the energy cycles, right? Of how do you go into state, manage that for the time period you need it, and then be able to get out of it so that you're not like medicating yourself all the time. You're just optimizing your own physiology and neurology.
Right.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Okay. We got to have you back on. I have so many other things that we could talk about now that I understand who you are. This is a great product, and it's clear that you've spent decades creating this. This is not, some product that everybody came up with at the last minute and says, "Hey, let's tap into the nootropic business."
This is in your future, Carl.
Collagenius.
Collagenius is our new mushroom mix that's coming out at the end of next month. And it is the equivalent. So if you've ever done mushroom drinks or mushroom coffee or anything like that, there's some great products out there. I would not disparage anyone. This one serving is equivalent of 1.4 pounds of lion's mane, red reishi, right, chaga mushrooms, and it naturally tastes like chocolate.
Really?
Yes. When you start warm water extracting lion's mane mushroom, chaga mushroom, red reishi, right, cordyceps, they start getting chocolate and coffee notes as you get further and further down the extraction level. And as you're doing that, if you do it right, so that you get all of the key components, the key nutrients that are in the mushroom that you want to affect, they start getting really chocolatey, and then you start combining that with some antioxidants that are that are naturally cocoa based or cacao based.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, it is a chocolate orgasm.
Right.
So,
Oh, that sounds great. I can't wait.
Yeah.
And in fact, DC Integrated Health, he actually put this up earlier. He said 300 to 500 milligrams is a good microdose with 100 milligrams of B3 and 1,500 milligrams of dual extract lion's mane. Yeah. So there you go.
Love it. Perfect, man. Perfect.
Yeah. This audience is amazing. I mean, there isn't anybody listening to this show that couldn't come on and host this show. That's how smart they are. They really are. They don't listen to me. They do all their own research. Listen, it's been so great having you here today. I wish you nothing but success with this product because you deserve it.
Thank you, my brother.
I'm going to send you an email because I'm working on some other things that I would like some advice from you. It has nothing to do with this. It's a startup. I too am a serial entrepreneur. And for some reason, I never learned my lesson, so I keep doing it. But anyway, it's been great, really great having you on the show. Okay, there you go, folks. shrnetwork.biz/Nootopia, Nootopia. Use the code SHR10 to save an additional 10% off. It's already heavily discounted. We'll see everybody Monday. Don't forget, share the show. You may change just one person's life by sharing this show. I have it on good authority from the Pope that they'll make you a saint. So there you go. All right, take care. Have a great weekend, everybody. Stay safe.